Hello and welcome to Behind the Lines. I'm Diane Dayton. With us today is no stranger to our set. He's here, in fact, for its 8th time. It's Dave Romeo, and thank you for being here.
Glad to be here, Diane.
This is your 17th book, and we've covered quite a few of them, haven't we?
That's true, yes.
For those who don't know you, but a lot of people do, you are a motivational speaker. You're a results coach. You also have put out 15 DVDs and all these books that you've written. But one thing that's always a great calling card for you and shows what focus can do, and that's the fact that you are still the current Guinness World Record Holder in bass fishing for over 30 years. You caught and released over 25,000 bass in this span of 25 years.
That's right, yes.
That's great. You wrote a book.
Focused on Success.
Named after a TV show.
That's right, thanks to you.
Well, let's talk about it. How did this all start?
Well, you know, I don't know if you know this. I was down in Florida when this happened, and I got a call from you, and you said, I had just done another one of these shows with you, and we were talking about writing books. And you said, this lady called up, she saw the show, she wants to get your book. And I said, I'm down in Florida. Can you please get me her name and her number? I will personally call her. And you said, that's great. When you get back to Pennsylvania, we should get together. There's something I want to talk with you about. And that was about, would you like to do your own show? Well, to give you an idea what that was in my life, before that, if you could imagine the little tiny goldfish bowls that they have at the carnivals, my mind was like that little bowl, and every week I would do my seminars in this little intimate setting with my clients, and that's how I was going about doing things. And then when you said, would you like to have your own TV series, it was like getting dumped out of the little bowl into a 10,000-gallon aquarium. My mind just wouldn't shut off. I kept thinking of all these great opportunities to do things with that kind of setup. So that's what I was thinking about when I first heard about this.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at this. You can get a great visual on this. Well, I thought when I approached you too that you have a lot of experience with success and helping people. And it only made sense to take it to the TV show. And in fact, in 2019, we'll be having the 4th season on, and that's just totally exciting. So the book really does what, Dave? Well,
I noticed that there were a lot of things that I learned that I thought a lot of other people would want to know how to do these things too. So for example, how do you run a full-time seminar and coaching business with everything else that you have going on and do a television series on top of that? So I knew that that was going to be important. And one of the things that I learned from was bass fishing, all about the importance of focus. So just to give you an idea how much of an impact your focus could mean, let me take you back to when I first started bass fishing. The first year I did, I was terrible. I only caught 39 bass the entire season. But what I did do is I tracked 3 key pieces of information. Where did I fish? When did I go? And what did I use? And I would track that on my calendar every single time I went out so I could have a baseline to see how I was doing. Now, as a result of doing that, by the second year, I was able to get to 147 bass in 52 days.
Wow.
Now from there, I had 2 years of tracking information. So the next year when I went fishing, I wound up catching 800 bass in 88 days of fishing. Now here's the thing that really blew my mind. Now I had 3 years of tracking data. The 4th year when I went fishing, I fished 12 days in July in a row. Now remember what I said. I had 800 bass in 88 days. That would be 9 bass per day. In 12 days in July the next year, knowing exactly where to go, I went to 816 bass in 12 days.
Wow.
That's not 9 bass per day, that's 68 bass per day because my focus was where I should fish, when I should go, and what should I use when I get there. And I thought, what if you took that same focus for bass fishing and applied it to weight loss or time management or running a business or making your sales calls? This would work for anybody in any line of work, and that's what I wanted to get through in this book.
Yeah. Well, the TV series has been great because you've pulled some interesting success stories together. The TV show is airing here on LCTV 66. It's also in York on WRCT and on the internet as well. Expound.
Well, when we needed to come up with a format for the show, one of the problems that we had was you said, do a treatment for a TV episode. Well, in my mind, I could picture driving down this lane and this mountain road to this log cabin and listening to people voicing all their concerns. And then when we showed it to the videographer, he said, that looks great. we don't have the budget to do all of these things on the show. And I said, okay, well, I never did a TV show treatment before, but, you know, at the same time, I had just started my weekly blog. And I said, 3 weeks ago, I didn't know how to write a blog, but here's 42 blogs. And so he looked over and he's looking at the blogs and he goes, this is what the TV show should be. We should have these simple little lessons that are easy for people to understand. So we went with the format, which would be entrepreneurial underdog success stories, customer service superheroes, and inspirational role models. And I knew so many of those from my coaching clients, and I thought, what a great opportunity to spotlight these on the show worldwide for people to enjoy.
Yeah, and that's what you did. So the way the segments are broken up are how?
Well, at the beginning, we just have a little intro, a teaser. Mainly, it's a lesson that I've learned, and then I try and adapt it to the theme for whatever the show is going to be. And then this year, we've got Jason Hubler on with me, who is a business broker, and his specialty is making companies profitable. So we bring Jason on to give you his perspective on what companies need to do to be successful, or what strategies are already working for them.
Well, what I like with the book, too, you talk about how it began.
Yeah.
How it all began. And then you get into some of these specific stories, and then you tease some things that are coming up.
Well, the first day, I'll never forget that, and you can remember.
I do.
It was so scary because we were trying to tape an entire season of episodes in 2 days. Not only that, but when we got there on day one, we found out that the only person who was in the building had to leave early, almost 2 hours early that day, and we were scrambling to get everything done. Remember, we had storyboards up, and I was trying to remember all the different lines, and I couldn't do it, and we were just racing to get everything done. Luckily, we learned a lot in post-production about how to cover up all the boo-boos and the mistakes from that day.
It was a learning process, but boy, when you lose 2 hours that you anticipated, it makes a huge difference.
It sure does,
Yeah.
and it got a lot easier as we've done it over the years. Now in season 4, we've almost got our routine down. It really flows a lot easier.
Yeah, there's some things we can tease about season 4 too, can't we?
Yes. Well, one of the highlights that's coming up that I can't believe is going to be this world record fitness instructor who's also a strongman. And he's going to come on the show, and he tells me that he is going to break his own world record, he's in Ripley's Believe It or Not, for tearing the most telephone books in half in 60 seconds or less. So I can't wait to see him do this.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting because we're going to be doing this live and getting it on tape and having it to show in the season. What else is going on?
Well, one of the episodes that I really liked was the first one. It's called Holding Out for a Hero. And it's about this young man who was a Marine. His plans changed after he got out of the service, and he wound up working in the laundry in the housekeeping department while he was looking for work. And the same day he was doing this at this hotel, this food truck for a caterer happens to explode outside, and 2 people are on fire. He jumps to the rescue. He tore off his own shirt, used it as a glove, and saved these 2 people's lives, father and son. As a result of that action, the owner of the hotel has now rewarded him, and he's put him in charge of his own office supply business that he also owned.
Wow. You've learned a lot through Focused on Success, haven't you?
Well, I know I've grown a lot, and at the beginning it was how quickly can I learn what I don't know. Now I'm at the point now to say, how can I adapt what I've learned to make the show even better?
How long did it take you to put the book together?
The book was done in about 4 months. Had a little bit of a setback because unfortunately I lost some of the data. So even just that little bit of a loss kind of threw me off. Most of my books are written in 3 days, though.
Yeah, and you've written enough, so you really kind of have a formula down. Is there anything you want to share with us about that?
For writing books? Sure. One of the things that people ask me all the time about how to get started is write out your table of contents. In other words, if you know what every chapter in your book is going to be about, just write down the title. And then you just go into a stream of conscious, and you just start putting down every thought you can think of that would go in that particular chapter. And for me, it's just been a really great formula. I'll go to Florida. I'm usually in a hotel room for 3 days while I'm making visits. And whatever time I have in that hotel room is just dedicated to writing. And I can usually get about 10 chapters written in a day's time. But all I'm doing is feeding all the little notes that go into the chapter. And then every time I see a note, I use dictation software. So I can just start telling the stories that are going in that chapter. And it's gone from about a 90-day or a 6-month period down to a 3-day period to write each book.
Wow. So who is this book for, Focused on Success?
It's for anybody that loves to see dreams come true. When I wanted to put this book together, I wanted to make sure that every single guest that we had on for the first 3 seasons was in this book. And I wanted to just give a little teaser about what they went through and why they were an entrepreneurial underdog success.
Where can we find the book?
Well, the easiest place to get it is at daveromeo.com. It's there. I'm sure you can find it at other places, but that's the easiest place for anybody to get a hold of it.
And since you do a lot of seminars in the area too, you can also buy it at the seminars, right?
I always have the books at my seminars, so
Which
it's
is
easy
really
for
good.
people to pick it up there
Okay,
too.
we can get information about those on your website as well too.
In fact, the book became profitable the day it was released because I did it at my biggest seminar of the year, and I had a lot of people that were waiting to pick up a copy that day.
Excellent timing. That's always key too, isn't it?
Yes.
We're going to take a short pause, and we come back. We're going to find out more about what's in this book, Focused on Success. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us. You're watching Lancaster Community TV, LCTV 66. Welcome back to Behind the Lines. We're with Dave Romeo, his 17th book, Focused on Success, which is after the wonderful TV show that you see here on our station as well. He's also a results coach and motivational speaker, and we are talking about what's in this book and some of these inspiring stories. There are some real highlights in here. Tell us about some of those, Dave.
You know, we had a guest on the show one time, and he said, you know, I really admire what you're doing. And one thing I learned about successful people is that successful people solve problems faster. And that just stayed with me. Every year I try to find the most significant new lesson I've learned, and that was it in a nutshell. And what he meant was, he was an artist. He said, if I get some of the wrong color on my palette, I know instantly what to use that will take it off. But if I have a problem with my bed and breakfast, and somebody has a problem with a broken pipe, he said, I'm lost. I have to turn that over to somebody else. And I realized as we were doing the show how true that was. I remember the one day we were sitting there and we were almost finished with the show and we were going to take the last guest and she just froze like a deer in the headlights. Remember that day? And I'm sitting there saying, are we ever going to get through this? Is she just going to bail? But you sat down with her with all your years of experience on coaching people and you put her at ease so quickly. And we took another take with her, and she just did such a great job. And there it was, just living out exactly what he said. Successful people learn how to solve problems faster.
What else was in there?
Well, one of the things I've learned for people that want to be successful is you need to set your priorities first. You can't do everything. There's a saying that I love, and it's, if you chase 2 rabbits, both will escape. So like you, and like most people who are probably watching, we have so many different things going on in our lives. One of the things that has really helped me is I will just make a master list when I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed. And it might be 3, 4, 5 pages long, however long it is. I just write out one task at a time, and then I just start circling them as they get taken off. And I love, as you know, checking things off my list.
Yes.
So by doing that, it makes it a lot easier. And then the other thing is, especially working on a TV show and you're new at it, you have to learn to be willing to be bad for a while in order to be good. In other words, admit that you don't know everything. Listen to all the people around you that know more than you do. Gain from their experience and eventually start catching on to that. It makes life so much easier. And as Tony Robbins said, repetition is the mother of skill. So if you know that practicing something makes it easier for you, you could practice it 100 times and then eventually you're going to get it smooth the way that you want it.
Yeah, exactly. The power of your network.
Most people don't realize that almost anything that you want to get done, you're not going to get done alone. You need to use the other people in your sphere of influence. We all know approximately 250 people. And it's ironic because one day I was sitting in a meeting with a company about 3 minutes from my house. In fact, we were talking about the show. They were intrigued. They were a production company, and I wanted to they wanted to find out if they could be involved with the show. And as we were talking, it was clear that it didn't really fit what they did and what I did. And one thing I just happened to throw out was that I also wanted to see if I can get one of the large seminar companies who may want to buy my library of seminars. And out of nowhere, there's this voice in the back of the room, and this man speaks up for the first time and says, well, why couldn't we just do that here? It turns out he happened to be the president of RTO, Ready Training Online. And as a result of that, we've now worked with them to create Dave Romeo Online University. I would have never dreamed this in a million years that this would be happening. But that's how it came about, just through networking with other people.
Yeah, that's what it is. Some of the other highlights, I remember we were talking about the World War II vet, the Korean vet.
That was on season 2. We had Armand Acri. This man was 90 years old when he came on the show. He's 91 now, and he wanted to publish his memoirs because he was active in World War II. He was a reservist in the Korean War, and he served as a vendor in Vietnam. And his book is called The Luckiest Man in the World. And he had the most unbelievable stories from every place he had ever been.
Yeah. And then we also started to talk briefly about this wonderful woman who was 89 years old and wanted to write her book.
You show how everything is connected. This is the same lady that called that you were calling me about when I was in Florida. Well, it turns out she had written a book 20 years earlier, but never published it. I thought, well, let me just see the disc. There was no disc. Everything was done in capital letters, longhand, and it all had to be dictated into a digital format. I worked with her for months to get this done. And when it was done, I personally hand-delivered it to her house, and I made sure that she paid me in full. And my fee for that was she promised me a kiss on the cheek. So you can see that she is a woman of her word.
Yes, yes, indeed. How do you come up with the story ideas?
Well, one of the things that has always helped me is using the reticular activating system in your brain. Did you ever notice that you buy a car that you never owned before, and as soon as you get that car, everywhere you go, you see your car.
You're right.
Well, what's happened is in your brain is the reticular activating system, and it turns on to whatever you deem is significant. And because I'm always looking for good stories everywhere I go, I'm listening for great stories that would translate into television. And working as a business coach and listening to people who have struggled and all of a sudden turn around their business, you can't help but find these ideas. They're all around you. You just have to know where to look for them.
Absolutely. And I think that comes across so beautifully in the TV show, too, because you take a progression and you look at the situation from many different angles.
Yes. Well, there was one man that was on season 2, and I'll never forget him. His first day in sales was the day that I had met him. And he told me his background, and it turns out that of his brothers, he was the only one that was not in jail and did not have a child out of wedlock. And he was now becoming a successful salesperson. He's gone on to be very successful. And I watched him achieve his goal, which was to move out of his crime-ridden neighborhood and to own his own house for him and his family. And I was just so proud of him and just so impressed with what I saw him do.
Yeah. What insights have you gained through this?
Well, one thing that I would say is wherever you go, there's going to be things you don't learn, and don't be afraid of them. I remember something that you said to me right at the beginning when you were starting to do a lot of work in radio, was that you knew that there were going to be things that you didn't know how to do, but you figured you'd just figure it out. And that always stayed with me too. The other thing is, the closer you get to any topic, the more you track it, the better you're going to be at it. As I mentioned before in bass fishing, by just studying 3 key pieces of information, it helps so much. In fact, I use that to translate into my seminar business. In fact, honing my ultimate success formula for doing seminars, I was able to sell out 100% of all the seminar seats by July. In fact, I spent the rest of that year just bass fishing. So one goal kind of helped the other goal.
It certainly does. And it's how it all works together, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, but it starts with making a plan, right?
It is. You can't do everything at one time. But one thing that I've learned that's really been helpful is the long view sharpens the short view. And if you always keep that end goal in mind, you need to remember you've never been closer to achieving your goals than you are right now. So don't give up. And if you keep working at it, nothing and no one can ever stop you from getting to your goal.
Well, and I know because I've seen you through the years with all the different goals that you've had and the things that you've done the checklist on. What's in the future? What do you have coming up?
Well, like I said, the online university is going to be debuting this year, and that's something brand new As I said, I never expected that this was going to be possible, but what it's going to mean is that anybody, anywhere in the world, at any time, can view my seminar content and learn from that, especially the Sales Academy, which is my #1 program, has been digitized. So people are going to be able to drastically increase their sales ability just by attending this online university.
Yeah, and Season 5 with Focused on Success, the TV show. I know you've got some great story ideas already working on that.
You know, I knew in my mind that I wanted to do the show for 5 years. And I said in the book, the last show has to be as good as the first. And I met last week the guests that were going to be on the very last series finale episode is Focused on Success. And we are certainly going to go out with a bang when we finish this series.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell us that we haven't talked about or like to cover, or a final thought?
What I find is that most people think that knowledge is power. And what I've learned is knowledge is not power. It's knowledge plus action plus disciplined follow-through. It's great if you know you should do something, but if you don't do anything more than that, you're not going to have any power. If you know you should do something, like write your goals down and you write them down, but you don't work on them, you're not going to get anything for that. It's that disciplined follow-through, that last core component, that really makes all the difference in your success and your results.
Yeah, it really does. So to find out more about you, to get the book, to find out about seminars, online university, where do we go, Dave?
Easiest place to do it, daveromeo.com. Everything will be there.
Everything's there. You can get there from there.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for taking time, and it's good to see you back here again on the show.
Thanks for inviting me, Diane.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you've enjoyed it, and don't forget to pick up your copy of Focused on Success. I'm Diane. Dayton with Behind the Lines, reminding you to look behind the lines. You might be surprised what you find.